Good morning, students. How are you? Fine? Okay, very good. So, you must have read this chapter, Deep Water. Today, we are going to continue with this chapter, and I hope you must have understood what is the message of the chapter. Although we will discuss that message today, and if you have not read it, please read the chapter because reading gives you the moral boost up, and it will empower your mind also to think. Now, thinking is a very important process. As I told you the other day, that if you put your mind into rest position and don't think about, nothing happens. So if you don't change anything, if you change nothing, nothing happens, nothing changes. Therefore, keep this in your mind, keep your mind working, and that is what is being alive. Now I'm going to tell you a short story in which you will understand how we are so tuned to what we wish to be, how we are tuned to our own things or the ordinary things, and we don't think beyond it. Now, there was once a criminal. Once he had committed a crime and he was presented before the king. Now the king said, since you have committed the crime, I will punish you, and there are two punishments. One, that you will be hanged by the rope, and the other, you will have to take what is behind the scary iron door. A huge door was there, and he said, these are the two choices for you. Now you have to choose, either you will be hanged or you will be taking whatever comes behind that huge scary door. So the criminal immediately said, I would like to die by this hanging. And so a noose was being set up, and in that noose, when his head was being put inside the noose and he was about to be hanged, he said, stop, but as I'm going to die, I will not tell anybody what is the secret behind the door. O king, please tell me what is behind that door. So the king said that you have chosen to be hanged by the noose. Therefore, I will tell you what is behind that door. Behind that door is freedom. And you are so used to knowing the punishment of being of this kind, hanging. You did not even think of taking the other choice. You did not even think of doing something different. And there is freedom outside behind that door. So children, this story tells you that we are so used to the things that we go on with. If we have a fear in our mind, we keep it inside. We don't leave it outside. If we are afraid of doing certain thing, we don't even try to do that. So this story, I thought, is very relatable to the story that you're reading, Deep Water. So we'll continue the reading of the story, and we will find out how did the author gather all his courage, how he became stronger to come out of such a situation. Now, I happened to read a story by Sadhguru Maharaj, and he has given a very good message that what is required to be productive, to be successful. Struggles and difficulties, pain, sufferings of our life make us stronger. If there are no sufferings, then our lives will be grooved and we will not be able to think out of the box. Now, in the story, in a short story by Sadhguru Maharaj, there was a farmer and he was fed up of untimely rains, sunlight, cloudy weather, etc. All those things that cause disaster to his crop. So he invoked Lord Shiva in his prayers, and when Lord Shiva entered, he took a wild card entry and suddenly he appeared. The farmer told him, "Oh Lord Shiva, you have never been a farmer. So you don't know what are the problems that we face. And you control the nature, you don't even know what to do and when to have the rains, etc." So Lord Shiva smiled and he said, "Okay, I give the hold of nature into your hands. So what you do is, you control the nature. You do whatever you wish to do to make your crops productive." So what he did was, whenever he wanted cloudy weather, whenever he wanted sunlight for his crops, he used to say, "Okay, now we have sunlight." And when he was working in the fields, he didn't want to be scorched due to the sun, so he said cloudy weather. And then he asked for rains, and there were rains. And in this way, he plowed his field, and there was a very good crop. He planted the seeds and the seedlings, and finally he got a very good crop of maize. But when he was so happily going to harvest the crop, he saw that there were no grains inside the cob. Cob, you understand? The maize plant. There were no cobs, there were no grains inside it. And he was so surprised that he invoked Lord Shiva again. Now, Lord Shiva was in meditation, so he took so much time to open his eyes and look at the farmer. When he finally opened his eyes, the farmer asked Lord Shiva, "What is this? There is no grain in my maize crop. There is only, the crop is so beautiful, such huge plants, but there is no grain in that." So Lord Shiva told him, "Look, you control the nature as per your requirements, as per your comforts. But what I used to do? I used to send winds also, the harsh winds. Rain is comfortable for the plants, sunlight is comfortable for the plants, and the cloudy weather was comfortable for the farmer. But strong winds, the birds, the insects that pollinate." So he said, "I used to send strong winds, and due to that strong wind, what the plants used to do, they used to strengthen their roots and fix themselves into the mud so strongly that they could bear the fruits." So what do you understand from this story? That struggles are important in life to be productive. And when you struggle, only then you can be successful in achieving what you wish to. So by these two stories, I just wanted to inspire you to read this deep water story also, this chapter. It tells you that how we should overcome the struggles. Now, a fear is also kind of a struggle. A phobia, the other day I was telling you that phobia is the excessive side of the fear. So when a fear starts embedding in your hearts or in your minds, try to root it out. Try to weed it out. Try to throw it out. And that will be your courage, your strength. Okay? So we'll continue with the chapter. A few years later, when I came to know about the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Titan or Bumping River or bathing in warm lake of the Goat Rocks, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. So children, you can see that the meaning of cascade is waterfall, and for a few years the author was gripped by the fear, but after some time, when he came to know about the waterfalls and the enjoyment that the children and the young people used to have there, he also decided to go to the cascades. So he went to the Titan or the Bumping River. Titan River was close by, which was in his country there, and it was also known as Bumping River, and he used to wade into that. Wading is swimming in that, or bathing in warm lake of the Goat Rocks. So this Goat Rocks is also a place there where there was a warm lake. So whenever he went to these places, he had a desire to swim, and he had a tremendous interest in swimming. Therefore, he tried to overcome his terror and fear, but the terror had seized him there also. The terror that had seized him in the pool had come back, and he was reminded of the terror and the fear. It would take possession of me completely. So the author says that he was not able to get rid of that fear, and my legs would become paralyzed. So he used to feel very weak and lifelessness in his legs, and therefore he could not move it in for swimming. Icy horror would grab my heart. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. Now look at the word handicap. The author feels that he will never be able to swim, and for a while he felt that it was like a handicap for him. It was a hindrance in his way to learn swimming, and this handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. He thought that he will not be able to enjoy swimming and boating. In canoes on Maine lakes. Maine is the place, it's the birthplace of the author. If you remember, in the last video I told you that Maine is the birthplace of the author, and he says there also there were some lakes, and when he went for fishing on his canoe is a small boat. It's a very narrow boat, and in that slight and narrow boat, when he went for fishing for landlocked salmon and bass are the names of the fish. Okay, salmon is a fish, it's an edible fish, and they used to fish that in New Hampshire, and trout fishing on the Deschutes and Metellus in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades. Wherever I went, the haunting fear of the water followed me. So he says that as he had a lot of interest in fishing, boating, etc., therefore he used to go to those places, but he could never leave the fear, or the fear never left him, and it always haunted him. It followed him wherever he went. So there are the names of the various places where he used to go for fishing. You can make note of it. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating and swimming. So thus author felt very depressed, and he was very sad that he was not able to overcome the fear, and therefore he says that this fear almost ruined his fishing trips. So even if he used to go for enjoying the fishing trips, it did not give him any happiness. It also deprived him the happiness of canoeing, boating and swimming. But the author did not give up. He has written in his autobiography that he used every way he knew to overcome this fear. But he had put his foot down that he will use every effort, he will make every endeavor to overcome his fear. But it held him firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. So finally, the authors thought that he should take a formal training, and he hired an instructor to learn swimming. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. So all this paragraph tells you about the efforts that the author put to learn swimming and get rid of the fear. The instructor put a belt around me. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. So these lines are very, very picturesque. You can just imagine how the rope was tied to the belt around his waist, and the rope went through a pulley on an overhead cable. And in this way, the instructor was able to control the author while he was in the pool. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool. So on the one hand, outside the pool, the instructor used to hold the rope, the other one end of the rope, and the other end was tied to his belt. And in this way, wherever the author went, the rope was easily movable due to the pulley. Hour after hour, day after day, week after week. So in this way, see these, what does this tell you? Hour after hour, day after day, week after week. So practice makes a man perfect. We cannot learn anything in one day or in 1 week. Week after week, the author tells you, this is the mantra that he is giving you, that nothing can be achieved in one go. You have to learn it, you have to practice it hour after hour, day after day, week after week. So much time he utilized in learning swimming with the help of the instructor. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under. So sometimes it used to happen that instructor used to get tired, or maybe he used to relax his hold on the rope, and the rope used to take the author down inside under the water. Some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. And when that happened, he used to feel why the instructor is not alert, and he used to get under the water and his legs used to freeze. Again, the terror and the fear of water used to return in his mind. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. Slack means to become less, to reduce. And it took 3 months' time. See how 3 months he had to practice every day, every week, and so on. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale. So first of all, the first training given by the instructor was to cross the pool from one end to the other end by just with the help of the rope. And then secondly, he asked him to put his face under the water and exhale, and then raise his nose and inhale. So this is also another training, part of the training while when you are learning swimming. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Now pay attention, students, this is hundreds of times. Again, I'll repeat that nothing happens overnight. Rome was not built in one go, one day. Okay? So, bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me when my head went underwater. Bit by bit, I shed. I could leave get rid of the panic that seized me when my head went under the water. Now, what was the next step in the training? The instructor trained him, and the next step was he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks, I did just that. Just that, sometimes you get bugged up also. Sometimes even some of the children also, when they go for this and the instructor asks them to do only that, they feel so bored and they feel that this is not swimming. They don't want to continue. So he says, for weeks I did just that, kicking my legs, holding the sides of the pool. At first my legs refused to work, but they gradually relaxed, and finally I could command them. So in swimming, all these 3 steps are very important. How you can control your breath, how you can put your head inside the water and exhale. So control of the breath and movement of your hands and legs are the very important part of swimming. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer, and when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. Piece by piece. Piece by piece means step by step. So, step by step, the author made a swimmer out of the author. Step by step only he could get him rid of his fear. And so the author says he had perfected each piece. Each piece here means the control of the breath, how to breathe inside the water, how to exhale and inhale, how to make the movement of the legs, how to make the movements of the hand, how to swim across. So all these things, when he had perfected, only then he took everything together as a whole. And in the month of April, he said, thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer, and when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. So, the author says that when the instructor was convinced by training him piece by piece means step by step. As you have already read, that he had given him first training of moving into the in the pool from one end to the other end with the help of the pulley. Second step was how to control the breath and how to breathe, exhale and inhale in the water and outside the water. And then thirdly, the movement of the legs. So piece by piece, step by step, he built the swimmer out of the author. And he says when he had perfected, he gave a lot of practice and he made the author practice for a long time, and he puts them together into an integrated whole. Then he felt now on the whole the author was a good swimmer and he had learnt swimming. In April, he said, now you can swim. Dive off and swim the length of the pool, crawl, stroke. So April, now pay attention to the month April. When did he start? He started in October. He had hired an instructor in the month of October, and from October till April he had practiced, and only when the instructor felt that he could swim all alone, he told him, now you can swim, dive off and swim the length of the pool and crawl, stroke. Crawl, stroke is a kind of, it's a way of swimming. There are many types of stroke it is a style of moving the arms and legs in the swimming. I did. The instructor was finished. The instructor was finished means the instructor's work was over. But I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror-stricken when I was alone in the pool. So everything was fine. The instructor was quite confident that the author could swim all alone, but the fear came back to him. The fear again did not leave the author, and the author started thinking that if will he be able to swim without any fear. Terror stricken means gripped by fear when he was alone in the pool. I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. So, in spite of that fear coming to his mind, did the author give up? No, he did not give up. He tried to swim the length up and down gradually and slowly, yet the tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. Vestiges, the traces. Still, he used to feel that there is a fear somewhere, a small feel of the fear was there in his mind, and it used to return to him when he used to go for swimming. Although he was mustering all his confidence, he was not able to get rid of the old terror. But now I could frown and say to that terror. So how did he overcome? So the first step is that he crushed the terror that used to come back to his mind. He used to forcefully think and shout, and in his mind itself he used to frown. He used to say to the terror, to the fear, he used to say in his mind, trying to scare me, well, here's to you, look. And off I would go for another length of the pool. So once when he went up the length of the pool and coming down, and he was moving back and forth in the pool, in the first attempt he felt that the fear coming back, but this time he did not let the fear take hold of him. How did he crush it? By feeling, by having a thought that in my second move, or in the second length when I swim up and down, you will not be there anymore with me, so you cannot scare me anymore. This went on until July. Now you can calculate the number of months that he had invested to practice swimming, and how he finally, in the month of April, when the instructor had confirmed that he can swim all alone, yet he was not able to get that courage within himself. And he says that this kind of fear coming and I trying to overcome that went on until July. But I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left. So I went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampact Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. See, you can. The author has also told you about the various types of strokes that are used in swimming. So he says he went to various lakes and rivers to try to find out whether he has completely overcome his fear. So he wanted to be completely sure. He wanted to assure himself that he would not have that fear returning to him again. So you can see the names of the lakes and rivers given there. Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, in US, there's a Lake Wentworth. Then he dived in Triggs Island. Triggs Island, dived off a dock at Triggs Island and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampact Island. So in the lakes, the huge lakes in New Hampshire itself, there was the Triggs Island and there was Stampact Island. So he used to swim across. It was at a distance of 2 miles. So he swam 2 miles to find out whether he was rid of that fear. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. So he used all sorts of style to cross the lake and from one island to the other. Only once did the terror return. when I was in the middle of the lake. So finally, when he reached the middle of the lake, the terror returned to him, but I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. Miniature means in very small, tiny, very small. So now, when he went there, the terror was not a very no, the terror was not a very strong one, it was a very small one. And I laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" It fled and I swam on. See, this line, how inspirational it is. How the author inspired himself. How the author developed a courage in himself. Because he had to overcome the fear of water, because he wanted to enjoy his boating, canoeing, fishing, etc. And therefore, he had to see to it that he must overcome and crush the fear in his mind. So he's even in the lake also, when the fear returned, he laughed and said, "Mr. Terror, Mr. Fear, what can you do? Nothing. You cannot do anything. You cannot frighten me anymore." And at that moment, when you think that way in a positive way, it fled and I swam on. And in this way, the fear fled and the author could swim further. Yet I had residual doubts. Residual. You know what is the meaning of residual, everybody? I think, yes, residual means the remaining part. So I had the residual doubt. So although the author says that he was having a very positive outlook, positive approach towards this and trying to suppress his fear, yet he says that there was some remaining doubt left in my mind. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up the Titan to Conrad Meadows. So now he went westward, west side of the place where he was living. So he was in Yakima. I told you that in the last video. You must have understood that he was in Yakima, and from Yakima towards the west, in west side or westward of his country, he went to Titan River to Conrad Meadows, up to Conrad Creek Trail. Trails are, very undeveloped paths, or very temporary rocky path in the midst of the mountains or small hills. So he went from Titan, he went to Conrad Meadows, up to the Conrad Creek Trail to Mead Glacier. So finally he reached Mead Glacier and camped in the high meadow by the side of the warm lake. So there he camped. He stayed there at the side of the warm lake so that he could enjoy swimming in that lake. The next morning I stripped, dived into the lake and swam across to the other shore and back. Just as Doug Corporon used to do, I shouted with joy and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. So when he could cross that warm lake, when he could swim there without any fear, he swam across to the other shore and back. Then he felt the confidence in him that he had finally conquered his fear of water, just as Doug Corporon used to do. Doug Corporon is a great swimmer of the US, and how he used to efficiently swim, the author felt that he was equivalent to him now. And I shouted with joy and the Gilbert Peak returned the echo. When you are in the mountain areas, the echo of your sound can be heard. The experience had a deep meaning for me. Now, this line also, this statement made by the author is very, very important. He says, the experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate. So, this experience, the causes of the development of the fear in his mind, the developing of the fear of water, he says, was a kind of experience which strengthened him, which gave him more strength. And therefore, he says, the experience had a deep meaning for me. That fear of water had a deep meaning because the author says only those who have known the stark terror, the stark, the great, the grim terror, the fear that those people have faced, only they can appreciate how they conquered it. So, whenever you are able to conquer or be successful over your own fears, at that time you realize that how strong you are. One should not succumb to their fears. One should not succumb to the circumstances. In death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death. So once you die, there is nothing, no terror is left. Everything is very peaceful. The author says that when there is death, there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death. So when you fear death always, then there is fear in your mind. That fear will be there. But once you die, the fear is over. There is peace. And as Roosevelt, the president of the US, knew when he said, all we have to fear is fear itself. This line is quoted. It is Roosevelt's statement. And he said that all we have to fear is fear itself. We should be afraid of our fears. We should not be a victim to our fears. We should always try to overcome our fears. Just as the students, it is very natural that we have the fear of exams, we have the fear of public speaking, we have the fear of meeting people, and there are many kinds of fear, as I discussed earlier. So when that fear comes in your mind, what are you supposed to do? What should you do? You should keep this statement in your mind, that you have to be afraid of that fear itself, and you have to throw it out. You have to get rid of it. You have to discard it from your minds and hearts. So this is a very important positive step that you can take. Because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce, the will to live somehow grew in intensity. So the intensity of fear was outgrown by the intensity to live and conquer that fear. The author says, at last I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. So finally, at last, I felt released, free from the fear, and therefore I had no worries and anxieties while he used to walk on the trails and climb the peaks, and in this way he was successful in brushing aside the fear in him. So children, this is all the chapter about, from which you get a lot of inspiration. As I told, that these autobiographies or the stories or whatever text that we read gives you a kind of insight. It gives you an inspiration. It encourages you to be a person like this. Now this particular chapter develops this kind of courage, and it gives you a sense of positive approach. And because life is not a bed of roses, we need to face difficulties in our life. We are supposed to overcome these difficulties by the positive approach and by our courage. And also remember that only when you put your foot down, that no, you are not going to keep this fear in your mind, only then you can overcome the fear. So that's all with the chapter, and I'll be giving you one question in your assignment. Please try to complete. So students, you can see the message of the chapter is, or the theme of the chapter you can say is, all we have to fear is the fear itself. Thank you.